Hey there DIYers, thanks for coming back. And thank you for taking time out of your busy day to watch this video. Today, we're going to take two different companies' sharpening systems, bring them together, and see if we can get really sharp tools. And what are those two companies, you ask? Well, in this corner over here, we have Woodpecker's one-time sharpening system. And in this corner over here, we have Taylor Toolworks' scary sharpening system, also known as Taytools. Okay, so let's start with the Woodpecker system. Comes in this nice little carrying case, if you will. Now, any of you that are familiar with Woodpecker tools, and those of you who aren't, know that they're pretty pricey, and this was no exception. Now, this sharpening system happened to be part of their one-time tools. What I liked about this sharpening system that's different from some of the others that I've seen is it came with everything that I needed. And that is, it came with the angle gauge, so I knew exactly what angle I needed to sharpen any of my tools to. It came with this setup block that sets that angle so you know exactly where you're setting them up. And then it also comes in 2 and 3 degree increments so that you can get your micro bevel on there also. And then it also comes with this jig that holds your chisel or your plane iron at the desired angle so that you can get them sharp. Now with the Taytools systems, there's actually, if you go to their website, and I'll have links down below, even though this is a one-time tool, I'll have links down below for all this stuff. And just so you know, Woodpecker nor Taytools or Taylor Toolworks are sponsoring any of this. I bought all this with my own money. So if you go to Taylor Toolworks' website, they actually have what they call a scary sharpening system. It comes with 7 different grits of what they call aluminum oxide. This here is 300 grit all the way up to 60,000. It also comes with 3 pieces of this flat, thick glass. Now each piece of glass comes with its own non-skid little pad. And so, like I say, it comes with 3 pieces of glass. But as I said, there's 7 pieces of this paper. So I do plan on putting a piece on each side of this glass, but it still leaves me one with no glass. So I bought a 4th piece that was extra. So how's all this going to come together and work? Well, let's start with the sharpening paper first. Basically what we're going to do is each one of these pieces of paper come with a sticky back. You peel the paper off, you wet the glass, put it on here, take your little scraper and smooth out all the air bubbles until it's nice and flat. Basically I'm going to take the 300, I'm going to take the 600 and the 1200, and I'll stick those on there. Then I'm going to flip the glass over, and this is 1800, 8000, 14,000, and then the 60,000 grit will be on a piece of glass by itself. So we got the paper all put on these, and as I said, I was going to put the paper towards the bottom and leave the top open, and the reason was I wanted to number the grits, and I didn't want to do it on the paper itself. So basically I just took some of my wife's fingernail polish and painted the numbers on. I did one side, then took my heat gun to it and dried it, and flipped it over and painted the other side and did the same thing. This video is sponsored by the DIY Apparel Company. There you'll find long sleeve shirts like the one I'm wearing here in a multitude of different designs. You'll also find short sleeve shirts and sweatshirts. The shirts and sweatshirts all come in 5 to 6 different colors with a multitude of different designs. Short sleeve shirts are 100% cotton, whereas the long sleeve and the sweatshirts are cotton polyester blend. I also have coffee mugs that come in 4 different colors with a multitude of different designs. There you'll also find canvases in 4 different sizes, again with a multitude of different designs. And now these DIY hats. They're an all cloth, 100% cotton hat with a cloth adjustable strap in the back. They come with elevated 3D embroidered lettering, and if I must say, they are very comfortable. Now we're ready to start sharpening some tools. So I've got 3 Stanley Chisels here. Like I said, they're nothing fancy. I just got them at Home Depot as a 3-pack. I got a little chisel head in my nail bag, just kind of beat it up and dent it up. I want to try and get in. I've got this little bitty hand plane. I'm going to sharpen that up, and we're going to see how good we do. First thing that you need to do with any of these is you need to grind the back of it and get it flat and smooth. So one thing to remember, please remember this. When you're sharpening on this, in this particular case, you can't go back and forth like this. You kind of go, you get one direction. The reason is if you go back and forth like this, you're going to dig into that paper rip and you're going to be quite pissed. So basically take some water. Just going to take the tool on here. And I'm just going to take this, and really you only need to flatten probably about this much of it. You don't need to do the whole back side. So you can see where these hash marks are going that way, and where I'm sharpening, I'm getting it flattened out right through here. So when I was going about flattening the back of the chisels, my OCD got the best of me and decided I'd just do the whole back instead of just, the front inch or so. And to do that, I wound up having to go and get some 120 and 180 grit of this same type of paper so I could get these ground down. The backs of these, these are cheap little chisels, and the backs of these were pretty rough and uneven, so it took a lot of grinding on those two grits just to get it flat enough to move on. As my OCD took me, I ground them all the way up to the 60,000. Now I'll tell you something, grinding this much area, what I found is no matter how hard I pushed to keep it flat, I must have been doing this as I was doing it, because in the center here, on every one of these, you'll see there's kind of an area where it didn't get very polished. But the top inch or so of it is, and that's really all you need. And again, my OCD got the better of me again, and I decided to polish a little bit on the top side. But just doing that alone, getting this really flat and polished up, has made these very sharp. They are what I would call dull razor sharp. Anybody out there that's used a razor a little longer than they should, ladies, guys, yeah, it cuts the hair, but it pulls and yanks on it as it does it, and that's kind of what this does. It'll cut the hair, but like I say, it's like a dull razor when it does it. So knowing that, just imagine how sharp these are going to be once we use this woodpecker jig. How do we go about using this? Well, as I mentioned before, you grab their little angle guide and you stick your chisel in here to the angle that best matches. But what I found is I've already kind of done this one. That 25 degree is what this needs to be, but these are off just a little bit. So I had to actually basically grind the whole edge to get it flat before I really went up through the grit. So because of that, we're going to go back to and use the 120 and the 180 to get that ground down so it doesn't wear out my 300 grit doing it. And then we can move on up the ladder here of the grits. So how you get started is this is your jig that's going to do all of it. You get your chisel in there, and you want the bevel that you're going to grind up, because this is the part that's going to be down on the sanding blocks to get it sharpened. With this particular jig here, these rollers can actually be pulled out and put on the inside. So if you got a real wide plane iron and the wheels aren't going to fit on like this glass, you put them on the inside, and that way you can still sharpen. So how this works is we loosen this nut here, pull the pin, and we move this up to the 25. Now, the 25 is on this side, so you've got to use this side of the jig. If we wanted the 27, we would use this side. Tighten this down, take this block, push it all the way up against there, move this up, make sure your block's good and tight against here, make sure your chisel's good and flat in the jig, and it's up flat against the little bar here. You tighten this nut down, and you're all set to get sharpening. Now, like I said, I'm going to start with the 120, the 180, and go to the 300. So get some water on here. I'll go ahead and get water on both of them. Again, when you're doing this part of it, pull, lift up, go forward. Pull, lift up, go forward. Otherwise, you're going to gouge this into your paper here and cut it. Now, when it comes to these low grits like this, I'm not really going to count how many strokes. I'm basically going to look at the edge of it and see the marks that it makes to tell me that I've got it all sharpened the way it needs to be. I'm not sure how well that shows up, but you might be able to see that I've got lines from the sandpaper, if you will, all the way down the whole bevel. And so now that I know that, I'll move to the next grit. Same thing. Now, I keep my hands here. I don't want to do this because I don't want to worry about any deflection or bending that I might be doing. So I'm just going to do it all with my hands back here.
And again, I'm not really counting how many strokes. I'm going by the fact that when I look at it, the grooves, if you will, from the sandpaper, for lack of a better word, are finer than they were before. And when you see that, you move up the grit. As you can see, I got it all the way down, but just this little bit right here. And I'm going to leave that, and the reason is as I go up, keep going up the grits, more and more of that will go away. And then when I do my micro bevel, which will be at 27 degrees, it'll take that out. Okay, these two took so much grinding, I wound up having to get out 80 grit, just regular sandpaper for wood, and getting these ground down to where they're all flat. And stick around to the end, I'll show you a tip, trick, hack, whatever you like to call it, on how to sharpen these little blades like this, because obviously it's not going to work on this system, but I can tell you how to do it and get it just as razor sharp as the rest. All right, so to go up on these next grits, like I say, for this one, I'm going to definitely pick up one direction. Now that's 3. What I found is it takes about 80 strokes from the 180 to the 300 to get the marks out. But I do them in sets of 20 because I want to, at the end of 20, to look at it, and I want to spray off the surface here and get all the filings out of the way, so I got a clean set for the next set of 20.
I don't really need a new friend, so spend your time with me. Looking for someone who can play.
Okay, that looks pretty good. So I'll move up to the 600, 1200, turn these over, then it's 1800, 8000, 14,000, and we'll come back and we'll polish it up with the 60,000. So the 60,000 is the final grit to go to, and then we'll test just how sharp these are. And I can tell you here already at the 14,000, that is very, very sharp. And again, I'll probably do about 80 strokes. All right, there's 60,000. And if I get it just right, can't tell. You can see a reflection in it. But there is just a little bitty burr underneath here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it in this because I don't want to change the angle. I'm going to slide this back. I'm going to take this over the bottom, take that burr off, then I'll run it back over the top again, and we should be done. All right, we got that all done. Let's take it to the micro bevel. Now I've got this set for 27. I'm going to start to 300 and go up. I'm hoping I don't have to go down to this 120 and 180, but let's see how we do here. But it's going to be the same process as it was before. We're just going to take this, well, there we have it. I got the micro bevel on there, nice and shiny. You can see a reflection in it. Let's test how scary sharp this is. I've used it a bunch around here. I ain't got a lot of hair left, but we'll move on up the arm.
Holy moly!
I'd say that's razor sharp. So I'll go through and get the rest, these other 3 all sharpened up and with the bevel. Then we'll give you the trick on how we're going to get this sharpened, and then we'll demonstrate just how sharp they are on wood. But I would say these are going to be extra scary sharp and dangerous. All right, one last little tip before you're finished. When you get that micro bevel on, if you feel down here, you can feel just a touch of a lip. And so all I'm going to do is take the 60,000 grit and polish that up and take that lip off. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to show you a little trick on how we're going to get this little blade sharpened. As you can see, we can't put this in here. There's not enough blade for this to hold to get this measured out so that you can use it. So how I'm going to get this sharpened is I'm going to use this chisel here, that's the wide one, that's almost the same width as the plane itself, and some double-sided tape. So I'm just going to put some double-sided tape on here. Nice thing about it being razor sharp, it cuts it itself. Let's measure and see what that angle is. It looks to be about a 25, so we'll get this set to 25. this set in here and get it somewhat close to this edge. Tighten it down real good. Now all I'm going to do is set this up to there and stick it down, and now that's set at the 25 that I need. And I'll go through, I'll start down at the 300 and move my way up just like I did all the others, and when I'm all done we'll show you how it looks. Now, just like the others, I'll take this off and file the back of it to get that lip off. And just so you know, a double-sided tape works great. So great, you got to be careful when you're taking it off. You don't cut yourself. Let me get some wood set up here and we'll see just how sharp it is. Now, I don't have a piece of hardwood. All I have is basically 2x6. And so we'll do this plane first. Now, it's really small, so it's kind of hard to hold on to. Uniform thickness, nice even shading. But you can see the combination of that woodpecker sharpening jig and the Taytools sharpening paper, you can get a really nice edge on your chisels. Well, there you have it, with Woodpecker Sharpening System and Taytools scary sharpening paper, you can get razor sharp chisels just like I did. Now, I had to work at mine quite a bit because they're kind of cheap and hadn't been touched, and so I needed to do a lot of work to get them to where they are. But it was well worth it because these are now razor sharp, as I showed you. And then to touch them up, all I got to do is probably go down to like the 18 or 8,000 grit, just go a few swipes, and they're back in business. And then at some point when your bevel gets too far back, then you have to go back down to the lower grits and start all over. But with a few swipes, you can sharpen back up and be back in business. So with that, hope you enjoyed this, hope you learned something. Thank you, and until next time, happy DIY.